Welcome to Mac Talk, a Middle Tennessee podcast from Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm your announcer, Kennedy Galpin. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at the Nashville Interiors magazine. Nashville Interiors, inspiring us with homes that are the very definition of beauty.
Thank you, Kennedy, and welcome everyone to Mac Talk. I'm your host, John Pitcher. We like to think of the Mac as a cultural town square where we encourage everyone to be their creative best. So, Kennedy, what sort of creative things have been occupying you this week?
Yeah, so this week, or really today actually, as of recording, it's a Saturday, and today I actually joined something called the Daft Punk Experience.
The Daft Punk Experience.
Mm-hmm.
What
on the
is
game Fortnite.
Fortnite.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is essentially an interactive concert on your gaming device or your phone or your iPad, or really anything.
Now,
Tablet.
what is an interactive concert? Does that mean you actually join the band?
So in a sense, you're kind of on your device, you're moving around, you're getting as close to the band as you really possibly could. You're seeing all these visuals jumping out at you, and you're like moving around, you're dancing, you're in the game, you're dancing. You could also, I guess, dance in real life too, but
okay. But what does that have to do with Fortnite? I thought Fortnite was all about killing zombies.
So Fortnite has a bunch of different modes, and occasionally Fortnite will actually put on these digital concerts for people to experience, and this is one of them. They've had other artists such as like The Weeknd, Lady Gaga, Sabrina Carpenter.
So some pretty big names.
Pretty big names, yes. And this is their most recent one.
Okay. And what is your opinion now? You're having experienced this, having done your Daft Punk thing.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. How was it crazy? Well, tell me, how was it crazy?
I mean, so if you're epileptic, maybe don't play it. But like, you have all these bright colors jumping out at you. You have all the visuals from their music videos jumping out at you. You're experiencing it pretty much in first person view.
Oh my God, it's like an LSD experience.
Yeah, maybe. I've never done it, but yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming.
I'm assuming it would be akin to one. But I mean, the band's no longer together, so it's like seeing that band in their heyday in person, like on a one-on-one concert experience, kind of. I mean, you have a couple other players.
And you're like a big fan of that band anyway, right?
So, yeah.
So you were pretty pumped up when you saw.
Oh yeah,
they were now in Fortnite.
Oh yeah. I got the skins and everything. What are you talking about? I spent money on it.
So what else is going on in Fortnite world?
Oh, they currently have the band Gorillaz as their festival icon. They are a band of animated characters, I would say, illustrated by Jamie Hewlett, and then mostly sung by Dan Albarn from the band Blur. Okay. So also fantastic. There's also a bunch of different modes going on right now, as per usual, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay,
so this explains one other thing to me then, which is why Kennedy has been drawing Fortnite characters lately. It's obviously it's in your mind right now.
It's a lot of fun. I have friends that play it. I have friends that work on it. So I mean,
so it's a really
hard not to.
It's
an inspiration kind of.
It's like, all part of an online creative community.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, Kennedy, speaking of inspiration, let's go ahead and introduce today's guest. Nick Mullikin is the artistic director of Nashville Ballet. Nick began his professional career in the early 2000s as a dancer with such notable companies as Houston Ballet and Ballet West. He joined Nashville Ballet in 2015 as the organization's registrar. Promotions came quickly, and before long, he became the director of Nashville Ballet School. He was also named director of MB2, the ballet's second company of promising young dancers. Nick is a passionate champion of contemporary dance. Over the years, he commissioned more than 20 new works for NB2. He was appointed artistic director in 2023, succeeding the company's longtime director, Paul Vasterling. This year marks Nashville Ballet's 40th anniversary season, and we're thrilled that Nick is here to talk with us about it. Nick Mullikin, welcome to Mac Talk.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
We really appreciate your doing this. Let me ask you, I'm very excited about the 40th anniversary season, and I'd like to know what makes this upcoming ballet season special. What is it about this season that'll highlight the past 40 years?
Well, capturing 40 years of history of Nashville Ballet is not easy, but one of the things that I'm really excited about and the vision for this season was highlighting the versatility of the artists as we've put together a season that I think captures neoclassical, classical, and contemporary work, telling stories that allow our audiences to engage with the work, while also ensuring that they have the opportunity to see work that I think plumbs the depths of exactly what ballet can be. And so I think the 40th season captures so many different parts of what made Nashville Ballet up until this point and what it's going to shape for the future.
Oh, I see. Well, not to age him, but you do have some Paul Vacherling choreography, and he goes back almost to the beginning. I think he joined the company in 1989. So, I mean, as a dancer, I believe. So he goes almost all the way back, and we're going to see his choreography for 2 classical ballets.
Well, I think the thing is that you can't...
So he's your history right there.
He is my history, but I would also say that he's our future. One of the things that Paul set in motion was the ability to tell stories. And so when we look at Nashville Ballet's Nashville's Nutcracker, the idea of Nutcracker can sometimes feel archaic. But this story actually captures the history of Nashville while ensuring that the ballet itself continues to evolve. And having Paul here working on something like that means that the talent level that continues to increase with our company gets highlighted and changes with the Snow Pas de Deux or the Sugar Plum Fairy, or the way that the different students now get a chance to interact in the space. And then on top of it, Swan Lake's a metric. It's the thing that you look at to measure your company against it. And I know that Paul is really excited about having the chance to work with talented artists that continue to grow. And after spending so much time investing in this organization, he now gets to see those dividends being paid. And so it's kind of a fun little game we get to play where we were somewhere, we are somewhere, and where we're going.
Okay. Well, these are the 2 classical ballets that you were showing this year. Nutcracker and Swan Lake are 2 of the best known ballets in the entire repertoire. Tell me a little bit about Paul's choreography, if you could describe it for me. How does he take these classics and sort of breathe some new life into them?
One of the ways that I describe Paul's work is actually more in the neoclassical style. His Nutcracker takes the Petipa choreography. Maurice Petipa originally did some of the work with Lev Ivanov, and Paul has grabbed onto those ideas, but then infused a sense of what we kind of would call the American style when Balanchine came into the American vernacular of ballet in the 50s and 60s. And so he interjected that stylistic approach. He's added, I would say, a different type of musicality in his approach to the Tchaikovsky score. And so Nutcracker itself is actually feels like a breath of fresh air rather than something that I would think could be maybe sometimes a little stale. And Swan Lake, Paul always finds the way to bring out the most in every character, from the Swan Queen, from the Queen herself in the story, or Rothbard. And so you get to watch the way that those characters interact while still maintaining that adherence to the classical aesthetic.
Okay. Tell me some specifics about our Nutcracker, because it's not like any other Nutcracker that people are likely to see anywhere else. And I think it was really a masterstroke. In fact, I think it might have been the ballet's first capital campaign, was to actually raise money to have this very special and unique Nutcracker.
That may be true, actually. I'm going to have to go back to my
go
history
back and
books
look at that.
Take a look at that one.
I'm dredging this out of my memory, which is kind of precarious, but I just vaguely remember Paul talking to me about that, because I know there was a capital campaign specifically for Nutcracker. There was one for this building, and I believe there might have been one for an endowment. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so we've had a couple of different capital campaigns, but this Nutcracker, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's brilliant the way that he approached it. So he takes the story from, I want to say it's the 1897 Centennial Exposition that took place here in Nashville. It's what sort of brought us to Parthenon. And his way of approaching this story is to bring different characters from different parts of the world to that exposition where Clara gets to experience them for the first time. We see that in the opening. And then from there, we open up into what looks exactly like the Belmead Mansion and Shelby Bottoms. So you get to see both parts of that in that very beginning and that opening. And then we go into the second act where we have the Parthenon Gardens that take place right there outside of, right there at Centennial Park. So it's a very, very unique Nashville setting for Nashville's Nutcracker.
Okay. And of course, another thing that sort of defines it as very Nashville is that you have the Nashville Symphony with you, right? Which is now one of the country's great symphony orchestras.
I was going to say, there's no way we could think of the Nutcracker without the Nashville Symphony. They truly bring a different level of energy to the space. We're one of the only companies in North America that still has a symphony for every performance. And it's very rare that you have a company our size that has the ability to do this. And it's only possible because of some generous support that we receive specifically for the symphony.
Yeah, well, that makes these performances in and of themselves very special, because who would want to hear Tchaikovsky without having, this turbocharged orchestra in the orchestra pit? Because that's I mean, the grand finale of Nutcracker, that great, I guess it's a G major arpeggio. I mean, how would you enjoy it without having, a conductor and a full orchestra playing that?
I think one of the things that's magical about Nutcracker in that finale is you imagine you have about 40 or 50 company artists on stage. You've got 40 more artists in the pit making the music happen, and they're all playing off of each other with one singular individual and that conductor helping to bring the dancers to life and the musicians to life to work in coordination. And the audience gets to have this seamless experience where two groups of high caliber professional organizations that are recognized nationwide working together in collaboration to create a magical holiday memory for so many people.
Yeah. We're speaking with Nashville Ballet Artistic Director Nick Mullikin. We'll be back after this important message.
Nashville Interiors Magazine is a proud supporter of arts education. The arts foster creativity, critical thinking, and emotional expression. It's not surprising that students engaged in the arts often perform better academically. They certainly learn how to think creatively. Our friends at Nashville Interiors Magazine love creativity. Their mission, after all, is to inspire us with homes that are the very definition of beauty. For more information, check out their website at nashvilleinteriors.com.
We're back with Nashville Ballet Artistic Director Nick Mullikin, who's here to talk with us about the ballet's upcoming 40th anniversary season. Well, you've been a professional dancer. What to you, I'm assuming you've danced in these works, correct?
I've never done Paul's Nutcracker before, but
you've done Nutcracker, you've done Swan Lake, I'm assuming, right?
Absolutely, yes.
What's the challenge for the dancers in those particular works? To me, they just seem it's an equal match of elegance and artistry with athleticism.
I think that is the case, but I think those are givens inside of every work that we do.
Sure.
I think the thing that makes both Nutcracker and Swan Lake the most challenging is that how many different times has an audience had that experience prior to arriving in the space? Mm-hmm. It's as if you're watching Hamlet or a different part of Shakespeare be recited. Everyone knows the words. But how are you going to take those words that everyone knows and make them your own? How are you going to do them in such a way that does justice to the history of that while still giving the audience an opportunity to see the words in a completely different way?
Right.
And so I think for me as an artist, and I think for our artists, the challenge comes to rising to what those expectations are and surpassing them each and every show. And what makes me really excited about my current role is to challenge them and help support them to get to that spot.
Yeah. The Washington Post had a dance critic some years ago who actually won a Pulitzer Prize writing about how she thought Nutcracker was bad for us, bad for dance. They actually gave her a Pulitzer Prize for that. And I tend to come from almost the exact opposite point of view, because whether you're talking about Nutcracker or you're talking about, La Boheme or Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, there's always going to be at least one kid in the audience who's seeing it for the very first time. And it's going to change that kid's entire life. And so to me, I'm always grateful when we have great repertoire companies that are doing these great works. I think George Bernard Shaw would have said would say we'd be impoverished as a culture if we didn't have this.
Well, I like that. I might actually steal that for some of my conversations down the line.
Sure.
But I think that, I remember that article pretty well. And there may have been a point in time where I agreed with it, actually, because I think the Nutcracker can feel like it's done every year.
Right.
And that there's not ever any growth or any development in that. But I think if that's what your company's doing, then you better take a look inside of how you're operating your company. Because I actually see it completely differently now, and I think I agree with you, which is from a dancer perspective, there's that chance to measure growth. There's that opportunity to see how your company is getting better. But my favorite part is the one that you just described. I get to sit in the back of the house for 21 shows this year and watch somebody have their first experience with ballet, with movement, with watching how music and movement come together. And I get to watch how that kid interacts, smiles, and looks up at his grandma and says, "Can I try it?"
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to actually there's going to be one professional dancer who's 5 years old, but will one day be dancing the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Yeah, and what a gift to our community to provide that idea of opportunity, of inspiration, of hope, of aspiration for what life could be, rather than to sit there and go, well, it's all just the same. No, actually, we can do something greater than that. And our artists on stage represent that opportunity for an audience member to see what commitment to yourself, to your community, and to your craft can yield in terms of inspiration.
Okay. Well, we were talking about, this is some of Paul's choreography. I think my favorite Paul quote is that he says, "I think of ballet as visual music. There's nothing to quote unquote get here. It's all visceral." How do you think of ballet?
Well, it's really not fair to prompt me after one of the best quotes that I've ever heard in my life.
I know. That was a getcha.
I think I look at ballet as a conversation, as an opportunity for our audience to engage in something maybe they don't quite understand, but to walk away feeling enlightened or feeling a sense of pain or a sense of understanding, a greater empathy, a greater sense of what they don't know. Mm-hmm. So when you have this conversation with somebody who you maybe are just getting to know, you walk away changed. Mm-hmm. And that conversation for me is one of the most important things. And I think I just came from a lunch where an individual was telling me so many of my friends don't want to come to dance because they don't understand it. Mm. And I turn to them and say, they don't have to, right? They don't have to get it. What they have to do is just let it wash over them. Let that conversation flow through them, and to walk away going, this is how I felt, this is why I liked it or why I didn't like it. Mm. And that to me is the embodiment of everything I would ever want to have in any conversation with any human being at any point.
Mm. I hear similar arguments whenever I talk to people about classical music. And I usually try to, because I love classical music, I used to be a classical music critic, and I usually try to break the ice by letting them know, well, I learned almost all of my fundamentals and rudiments of classical music by watching cartoons, because when I was a kid, Bugs Bunny.
I was going to say, is that a Looney Tunes
reference? Elmer Fudd would be singing "Kill the Wabbit" to
you got a Flight of the Valkyries.
Yeah, it's like I already, when I finally did learn classical music, I was like, oh, I know that. That was Elmer Fudd's aria. So it was, but at the same time, a lot of these people will love to go to watch Star Wars. Or any other kind of movie where the soundtrack just washes over you, and it's often all inspired by Gustav Holst or Tchaikovsky or Strauss.
Yes,
I mean that's where a lot of our pop culture, Hollywood music comes from, and it's really in a lot of ways the same kind of experience, isn't it?
I mean, it is. It's interesting to think of where a TikTok dance comes from right now, isn't it? When we take a look at how all of the phrasing is done in 4s and 8s, and how that also transpires on stage so much for ballet. And then what is it that tricks your ear when you're listening to it in a 3 or a 6?
That's right.
But the thing that's so fascinating about what you said there is the way that sometimes art that feels so unattainable actually has interjected itself into so many other parts of pop culture, and many people don't even recognize that it's in there. And so when you hear the march of, the soldiers from Nutcracker, mm-hmm. to connect that back to its origins, to understand where it came from and how really it truly is a moment of magic, of Christmas coming to life,
right,
or the idea of Christmas coming to life, it starts to shift the landscape a little bit for individuals about why they think the arts may or may not be important. And clearly, I think it's incredibly important.
Okay. We're speaking with Nashville Ballet Artistic Director Nick Mullikin. We'll be back after this important message.
Nashville Interiors magazine reminds us that arts education shapes brighter futures. It encourages creativity, critical thinking, and self-expression. The arts also strengthen academic success and help students build confidence. By celebrating creativity, Nashville Interiors continues its mission of showcasing beauty and inspiration. Want to see more? Visit NashvilleInteriors.com.
We're back with Nashville Ballet Artistic Director Nick Mullikin, who's here to talk with us about the ballet's upcoming 40th anniversary season. One of the things that Paul used to say when he does programming is that he has different, what he calls audience buckets, I think was how he described it to me. And it sounds like you're going to, this season, you guys have thought of everything because you have an Elvis bucket. So you're going to be starting the season with Travis Bradley's If I Can Dream, sent to the music of Elvis Presley. Tell me a little bit about that, because that's obviously, it's also more, is it more contemporary?
It is.
So, I mean, that's also an important part of the audience, you know, it's like, where else are we going to find this kind of dance and watch this kind of dance in a city this size?
Well, one, I don't think you're going to find this caliber of dancing probably anywhere else in the Southeast until you get to maybe Atlanta. And I think that one of the things that Nashville Ballet has positioned itself as is not necessarily what I would call audience buckets, but really trying to create something that I was programming so that everybody could find what it was they were looking for. If I Can Dream with Elvis music is certainly an on-ramp for our audience, right? A group of people who maybe don't necessarily identify as Elvis music with ballet. And Travis's work is brilliant. Travis is an incredible choreographer who has the ability to take music like Elvis and dive deeper into the emotion of it and to evoke that emotion through his choreography, which is contemporary but ballet influenced. And for me, that was really key, is that if we're going to bring our audiences in, a lot of new audience members, they have to understand that they are seeing ballet. But ballet isn't just Swan Lake and Nutcracker. It's the opportunity to tell stories through movement without words in a lot of instances, not all instances. But that program also is rounded out with George Balanchine's Rubies and Yuri Killian's Zumbalo. And that's what the first part
and there you've got some contrast, right? Because you go from Elvis to Ravel.
And you throw in a little Stravinsky just for fun. Right. So the idea here is that our audience members who love classical ballet or neoclassical work and know George Balanchine's work are going to be able to experience that. Those who are looking for what I kind of call the grandfather of contemporary work in Yuri Killian are going to watch those two pieces first, and then they're going to watch Nashville Ballet original creation that marries those two thought processes together with Elvis music. It doesn't get to me any more exciting than to be able to take something like Stravinsky and then Ravel and then put Elvis there, and you get to see how those same themes and those same kind of movements and that same sort of technique resonates across all those different kinds of music genres, while at the same time highlighting how amazing these artists have to be able to do all three of those things so well.
Right. Well, and just to remind people, and I'll have this in our blog post, but those performances, that first performance is going to be at TPAC. It's going to be October 10 through 12. Now, you sort of alluded a little bit when we were talking about the Nutcracker that maybe you did agree at one time a little bit with this idea that we shouldn't just be doing the same old chestnuts, I guess is maybe how you describe them. So, and you have commissioned a number of works since you've been here, right? Because at one time you were leading NB2.
Correct.
Which is the sort of promising young artists company.
We jokingly call it the farm team. It's okay.
The farm team. You got to start somewhere. So obviously this kind of work, having this kind of work and pairing it with these great classical ballets is something that must be near and dear to your heart, correct?
There's nothing that was more exciting to me last season than having, I think it was 50 or 60% of our audience coming for the first time for Dracula, and then to serve them Serenade in the front part of that. George Balanchine's Serenade for Strings by Tchaikovsky, is one of the world's greatest pieces. But if I were to say, let's all go see Serenade, most people wouldn't get excited about it. Right. But when I said, let's program Dracula alongside it, everybody wanted to come and see Dracula. And then I showed them Serenade, and they went, wait, that's ballet?
Right.
That's what ballet's supposed to be? And it's like, yes, that's who we are. That's what we do. And so for me, yeah, that's where I get really geeked out, is the opportunity for people to go, I didn't know it could be like this. I didn't know I could feel this way walking out of a ballet. I thought I was going to be bored, but now I've got all of these emotions flowing through me, and I don't even know what to do with them. And so you see the eyes get wide and the speech really increase, like mine probably is right now, because I'm getting excited about it. That's what I live for.
Right.
Is making sure audiences have that experience.
And so it's going to have a different impact on the different kinds of people you have in the audience, because obviously people who've never been to dance before are going to listen to something that's older and think, wow, that was, much more exciting than what I was anticipating. But then you may have people who are experienced dance lovers who are going to hear things a little differently too. I know one of the best classical concerts I've ever been to in my life was here in Nashville. It was the Alias Chamber Ensemble, which is one of our local groups. And they had like 5 pieces on their program. I think one piece was by Debussy, and the other 4 pieces were all written in the 21st century. And I came out of that concert thinking, wow, I never knew how radical and advanced Debussy was.
Isn't that amazing?
Until I heard that piece next to all these other pieces, and I was thinking, wow, that may have allowed me to hear Debussy the way he would have been heard in 1915 by the audiences then. It was so exciting. I think sometimes the context of how you put things together is so crucial and important.
I love that story. I love hearing that, because I would hope that everybody has that experience whenever they take a look at our work, which is that I just didn't know how ahead of their time certain choreographers were. And when you look at Yuri Killian's work for Umbalo, the middle part of that program, it was done in, I think, 89, something like that, a very long time ago. And you're going to go, this piece is now 30 plus years old, and it still makes me feel this way? Imagine what it must have been like when they first revealed it.
Wow, yeah.
Like, that's a really cool feeling, because if it can still stir your emotions now, imagine when nobody had seen anything like it. And now that's what informs and what we're building upon. And for me, that's what's also really exciting about Travis's choreography, because that becomes the next linchpin. That becomes the next thing that we build off of. And that's what we do a lot of here.
Okay. And could you maybe go a little bit more into the Balanchine work that we're going to see, since he's such an incredible influence on everything regarding dance here in America?
So the work that we're doing is Rubies. It's the Ruby season, so it's not surprising that I picked it. But it's 1/3 of an overall evening of program that was all different kinds of jewels, not surprisingly called jewels. And so there's emeralds, there's diamonds, and then there's rubies. And this particular piece is Balanchine's homage to Americana in the jazz age. And he really focused on the way that the Stravinsky score brings all of that to life. And so there are moments of it that are, I would say, dare I say, a little sexy for ballet, but also the way that we've described it is brash. There are moments that it's very aggressive, because Stravinsky music has,
What is the Stravinsky score? Do you know off the top of your head?
I want to call it as Carpaccio, as I want to. I might be getting that wrong, so I apologize to everybody who's a Stravinsky connoisseur on that. But the work itself is, I want to say, 12 women, 4 men, and then a pas de deux couple. And it's fun. It's just fun. And it's a great way to have the program kick off so that people get to see point shoes walking on point on bent legs. They get to watch the long-limbed individuals that we have executing, flailing their legs all the way up to hitting their head. And it's really exciting also that the company has expanded in such a way that we'll have 3 casts for the program, one of which will be a new apprentice that just joined the company, and then one of which is one of our longest-standing and known dancers in Claudia Monja. So it's a fun juxtaposition to see that if you're really nerdy and want to come to a couple of shows.
Okay. You mentioned Dracula, but this season you also have another icon of literature. You've got Sherlock.
Yes.
And that's part of your Attitude series?
Yes, so it is.
First of all, tell us a little bit about the Attitude series and what that is.
So the Attitude series is an annual program where we try to take risks. The program is meant to be a creative space where we endeavor to challenge the boundaries of ballet. And this particular ballet, Sherlock, honestly sort of fell into my lap and was the perfect fit for it and just became the title piece because it is obviously so well known. And again, this is a season where I want to make sure people feel like they can access the ballet. And I don't think it gets any more accessible than one of the, how was it described? A character who has had more stories told about him and was one of the first people that had their own sort of fan base. Because it's been around for so long and had so many different iterations of it, hundreds and thousands of iterations of Sherlock.
Tell us about the choreographer.
The choreographer is Penny Saunders. Penny is a Princess Grace Award winning. That is one of the highest honors you can get as a choreographer. She comes to us from Salt Lake City, where her family is, but she was a dancer with ballet companies all across the United States, as well as the Hubbard Street Company in Chicago. Hubbard Street dance is at the forefront of contemporary work. Penny marries ballet and contemporary, once again, exactly what I'm trying to do. But she's also a storyteller. She is passionate about music, so she's actually put together the entire score. The score highlights 1920s and 1930s radio stories. So we have some of these old radio programs that come out and help to tell the story of Sherlock Holmes on top of the soundtrack that she's used, and it helps to bring the story to life. She really wanted to take Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's character across all of these different stories and put little bits and parts of it together, but also ensuring that she was telling it from the perspective of a female. A lot of the stories in Sherlock Holmes don't have strong female characters, according to her, in the way that she viewed it. So she puts a lot of emphasis on the relationship between Watson and Mary. And then there's also suffragettes in there as well. So it is a fascinating story and a very unique perspective. It's done in collaboration with Grand Rapids Ballet and Ballet Idaho. And so we are 1/3 owners of this brand new production, which we're really excited about.
Okay, that's interesting. There are some women choreographers who do seem to have kind of a certain femininity in their style. Is she like that? Or how would you describe it?
I would say that Penny's work is brilliant in all regards. I think she choreographs in such a way that she tells stories. I heard it described by an artistic director friend of mine who said she has a way of interjecting comedy and humor and lightness with steps that are anything but, in such a way that it is seamless, and that you as an audience member are just along for a journey and you just don't even realize what you watched. It is, I would describe her choreography more as butter.
Okay.
Just nice and smooth, and you know when it hits you and how great it is, and it just makes everything that much better.
Wow. Well, I kind of really want to see that. Now, when the last time I've heard something artistic like that described as butter, it was the string section of the Philadelphia Orchestra. So, and that kind of wraps around you and carries you whether you like it or not as well. So sounds extremely exciting.
I've always found Penny's choreography to be that way, and this is the third piece of Penny's that we're doing.
Okay. I should add that Attitude series is May 1st through the 3rd at the Polk Theater at TPAC. Sort of always one of the highlights of the year is the Attitude series because it's always something new, something unexpected. It's the opportunity for the company to take risks. I guess it's a way as well for you as a artistic director to really challenge your company, right? To challenge to put something in front of them that maybe takes them a little bit out of their comfort zone and maybe make them better artists.
Well, and that's always the challenge that we have as artistic directors, is to program a season that does that. But the Attitude series certainly highlights it. And on that program is not just Sherlock, but a new work from Maria Conrad called Dea. That work is going to, again, take that marriage of contemporary work, but Maria's style has so much ballet inside of it. So it's a lot of fun to watch how she takes ballet shapes, manipulates them, and does so in a almost, how do I describe it? Contorted impressionist sense of ballet. She creates a lot of fantastic shapes that you wouldn't expect to see. And then on top of that, we've got Donald Byrd's Wake the Neighbors. And
that sounds kind of noisy.
You know, it's interesting. The first time I saw the piece, I was kind of taken aback by how jarring it was on video. It's a 6.5-minute solo for men. And it is part improv, part exhaustion. But it is also fascinating to watch a human being go for 6.5 minutes by themselves, and you start to see bits and pieces of yourself, their vulnerability, and it makes you feel something despite the rock music. So it really can be jarring at first, but then you start to find this human being in front of you, and you start to identify in a way that you didn't know was possible. And so for these artists who have already learned the solo, I watched it 4 times in a row. I never once saw the same thing, except for maybe a couple of the steps. But each one of them brought something else out of the character that they were portraying, which brought something else out of me, which made me think about something else in a different part of my life, in a different space that I had been in throughout the history of my own existence, which I don't know how Donald Byrd did it, but it's brilliant.
Well, that packs quite an emotional punch because it's a concise work from what you're describing.
Yes. But I mean, imagine speaking uninterrupted for 6.5 minutes about some of your most personal issues. And that's kind of what I feel like this piece does, is that I equated it the first time I watched to, I don't know, the angry kid who slams the door in his room and turns up the rock music as loud as he can. And we get to have that view into that room and the emotional experience that they're having. But it's much more subtle than that. And it's much more nuanced, and it touches on what I think is the humanity in all of us.
Okay. That sounds really fascinating. We're speaking with Nashville Ballet Artistic Director Nick Mullikin. We'll be back after this important message.
Nashville Interiors Magazine is a proud supporter of arts education. The arts foster creativity, critical thinking, and emotional expression. It's not surprising that students engaged in the arts often perform better academically. They certainly learn how to think creatively. Our friends at Nashville Interiors Magazine love creativity. Their mission, after all, is to inspire us with homes that are the very definition of beauty. For more information, check out their website at nashvilleinteriors.com.
We're back with Nashville Ballet Artistic Director Nick Mullikin, who's here to talk with us about the ballet's upcoming 40th anniversary season. Well, this is the ballet's 40th anniversary, but if I'm not mistaken, I think this is your 10th, right? You've been here since 2015?
I have been here since 2015. This is my 3rd season as artistic director.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Let me ask you, how has this company changed, evolved in those 10 years that you've been here? I know you guys have all been in the Martin Center now for more than that. Just having your own place has got to change the way you interpret dance and just the way you do your art.
I think Nashville Ballet over the last 10 years has really begun to find its identity, and that was done with Paul's work, without a doubt. You know, Paul really led the charge with that. But now, this company has had its premiere in London since I've been artistic director. We'll be premiering in Mexico next month, actually, which is really exciting. We've received national attention for all the right reasons in terms of the work that we're doing. Collaboration, creation, all of these different things are possible because of the space that we're in. And the company has doubled in size from a budget standpoint. We've, by my count, I think, quadrupled in size in the number of students that we serve. So we had over 2,000 students that we served last year. We have 24,000 individuals in Nashville who had a free arts experience thanks to us, and over 120,000 people reached between our digital and in-person programs at TPAC last year, which I think is remarkable. What we've done is we've taken these ideas about who we are and begun to export them. And I get to watch this company get better every single year. It's very exciting.
And just to elaborate a little bit on what you were talking about. Obviously this is a very well-known ballet company. It's really a cultural gem here in Nashville. We all know about it for going to the performances and seeing it at TPAC, but the company is much more complex than that and nuanced than that. You also, as you said, there's a school, so this is an education facility, and you have outreach.
Yes,
because you're taking it out into the community. So tell me a little bit about that sort of education. That's a big part of the mission, is the education, right?
it's a huge part. We create, perform, teach, and promote dance as an essential and inspiring element of our community. And so that means all parts of that mission have to be served. And this year, as I said, we have over 2,000 individuals that have had or taken a class here at Nashville Ballet. It starts at the age of 2, and it goes all the way to beyond how old I am. And the community engagement programs that we have go into the Metro Nashville schools. We help to provide arts for those individuals. We go into Title I schools and provide full programs that touch on every student in that space, so they each get a dance experience. We have programs that go out into the libraries to do story times with a ballerina. Our second company performs out in the community. I'm actually so stoked about this. We just created a brand new ballet. Maria Conrad has created it, called Mixtape, which is a sneaker ballet. It allows us to take ballet and contemporary movement and put it in any space now. One of the things that we are always held back by is the specialized flooring that we have to have.
Right.
This took that out of it and made it so that we could do this work in sneakers in any part of this community at any given moment. Wow. And we have doubled down this year, so it's our 40th. And I asked our community engagement individual to give us 40 birthday candle performances as a thank you to the city of Nashville. So we will have 40 different performances throughout the city that allow individuals to participate in this as our way of saying thank you to everyone who helped to make this last 40 years possible.
That's amazing. Well, one question, I think you've already answered this question, but I was going to ask, what do ballet companies these days need to do to remain relevant in their communities for the 21st century? And I think maybe the answer to that question is everything you have said since we started.
I'm hoping it feels relevant.
Since we started this interview, we do, great classical ballet, which introduces the great works to our community and especially to our kids. We have contemporary works, which, interject new life and blood and creativity and energy into the art form and attract new audiences. And you go out into the community, to do your outreach. You actually go to where the people are and not have them just coming into you. So it seems like that maybe is part of your secret formula here, your formula for a Big Mac and fries, except you guys are healthy.
Well, I hope we're healthy, but I think the art is as relevant as we are allowing ourselves to make it. And that every individual connects to this art form in a different way. And so for some, it's going to be the classics. For others, it's going to be new works. For others, it's going to be stories that they know and they want to come and see because it's being told in a different way. For others who don't have the resources or the means to come in and do it, our job, our responsibility as a member of this community is to ensure that they have that opportunity because, as I said, I think ballet is a conversation, an opportunity to be not enlightened in some sort of esoteric way, but enlightened in such a way that we didn't know it was possible for the human beings to do this kind of thing. And if that's possible, then it can create hope about whatever it is that any person is experiencing. The arts have to be thought of as less of a luxury and more as essential. And I think ballet companies have to continue to position themselves in such a way that people recognize that, because it's very easy for it to be something that's over there. But if it's at the forefront of who and what we are as a community and as a culture, then there's the opportunity for all of us to ask the questions about what else am I missing? What else can I touch on? What else could I be? And I don't know, I'm kind of in this spot right now where I'm philosophically going, what more is there for all of us to be, and shouldn't we be striving for that?
Right. Well, I think I couldn't agree more. I think that the arts are not a dessert. They're definitely the main course. And the arts are the one discipline that really tells us in the most visceral way what it means to be human. And there's really not much more important information out there than that. And I think some of what you have coming up this season sounds like it's going to give us some pretty good insights into that entire question. I appreciate how much time you've given us. I'm going to ask you one more question. This is the 40th anniversary season. Where do you see Nashville Ballet at its 50th anniversary in 10 years?
Well, my true hope is that we're able to do this kind of work, demonstrating balanced repertoire of classical and full-length ballets alongside contemporary new works. But I also am really, really hopeful that we are going to see sold-out full houses in every places that we go to, that people are going to continue to see us, as we said, essential and a part of their daily diet. I would like us to be as big a tourist attraction as Broadway. I would like for us to be a part of the common vernacular of when you say Nashville, you go, oh, they have a really great ballet company.
Right.
And that's where I would like us to be in 10 years, continuing to serve the community, continuing to do the work that we're doing, because I think we're on the right track, but I think we can be bigger, and I think we can be better.
Okay. Nick Mullikin, Artistic Director of Nashville Ballet, looking forward to your 40th anniversary season. Thank you for joining us.
Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Mac Talk from Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center. Our mission is to educate, elevate, and encourage our community through the transformative power of the arts. If you're interested in transforming your creative life, check out our website at monthavenarts.org. Our guest today was Nashville Ballet Artistic Director Nick Mullikin. Our podcast music was written by Nashville composer Christina Spinay. I'm Kennedy Galpin. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.